So, good morning and welcome to Essential Ingredients. I'm your host, Justine Reichman. With me today is Kate and Andreas from Six Seeds. Welcome, guys. How are you?
Very good.
Really well, thank you. Nice. Thanks for having us.
So, I'm excited for them to get to know you, hear a little bit about what you do and the kind of resource you can be as they build their businesses. So, Kate, if you would you please introduce yourself, your position, and what you do?
Hi, everyone. My name is Kate Burns. I am the CEO and founder of Six Seeds, and I'm responsible for setting the strategy and helping grow this business and all of our clients within the F&B sector.
Thank you, Kate. Andreas, if you would please introduce yourself, your position, and what you do.
Of course, my name is Andreas. I'm the managing partner for Six Seeds. I run the North American business, and we do what I do. We help clients, we help the people we work with create clarity around their business. And we create clarity in three different parts. We create clarity for new product development and how to run the business. We create clarity in marketing, and we create clarity in investment.
Awesome. I think we're in the perfect place to be able to share this as a resource because our listeners, whether they're food, whether they're beverage, whether they're CPGs, are just building a better for you food business, can really take great insight from what you have to offer. So I want to kick it off just so our community gets to know you a little bit better. Kate, what is your specialty and your background?
Oh, wow. So I'm an early adopter of gosh, digital seems like such a past tense now. So I started life, my working life, working for News International, which is obviously a big news publisher, and I worked for a mainstream newspaper called The Sun. And then that was it. So I spent a year there, and then ended up working for Ziff Davis back in '94, which is like crazy. So I think that's 30 years ago. So that was it. So then I was plucked from traditional back then into was then like a pioneering, completely virgin territory, right, of the then called internet. So I worked for Ziff Davis, Yahoo, and DoubleClick, and Alta Vista, and then I ended up being the first employee at Google back in 2000. Daily Motion, AOL. I ran AOL. I had senior positions at an early age. I'm now only 24, by the way. But yeah, that's a joke. So yeah, at a middle age, I realized that all of my years in tech had accumulated this wealth of knowledge for working with brands. And specifically food and beverage were the brands that really captured my heart, my passion, my imagination, because as being a mom, a parent, I was making choices back then for my children as a family that were really kind of like conflicting me, right? As a technologist, as a parent, as someone that's very like aware of where we are and how we're going to feed this planet. I suddenly started thinking of how I could lean into my many years working in tech, and then my passion for food and beverage, how these two could be married. So Six Seeds as a kind of like a germ, it was born in my brain probably about 15 years ago. I met Andreas. We have similar backgrounds, but really we are the marrying of all of our years of working within technology, how we can use tech to solve the biggest problems that the world's face, and how this was not being utilized or underutilized within food and within food and bev and with agriculture and with the future of food technology. And that's really where we are now. So I'm going to pass on to my co-founder who will like couple the story from his perspective.
Awesome. Thank you, Kate. Andreas, if you would, just a little bit about your background, just so that when we're chatting further and we go deeper into what we can offer our community as resources and insight and inspiration, they better understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, absolutely. Like Kate, I've got a background in technology. When I lived in London in the UK, worked for a whole bunch of the big tech companies on the agency side, Cisco, Sony, Canon, those kinds of things. And, we always say we were instrumental in sort of setting up, helping to give birth in a very humble way to the internet as we know it today. Moved to Canada, and I've always been really interested in food. I worked as a line cook for 3 years when I was at university. My grandmother taught me how to cook when I was a kid. And so when I moved to Toronto, I decided to set up a specialist agency that focuses on food and drink. And we built this agency, my business partner, Toronto, and I, we built this agency to Canada's largest independent marketing agency specializing in the F&B and CPG space. The opportunity arose to sell the company, to exit the business, which I took. And part of my reasoning for exiting the business was because I saw the technology developments that we are all facing today. I saw the opportunity to work with big data in a meaningful way. I saw the opportunity to push the development of artificial intelligence forward. All of this in service of the food businesses that we saw. So when the opportunity arose to start a business from scratch with the tools we have available, and starting it with Kate, starting it with this amazing co-founder, and starting it as a global company from the get-go, I took this opportunity. When we look at the failure rates in CPG, and when we look at the failure rates of companies that are trying to change the world for the better, they're around 82%, 75 to 85%, depending on which number you believe. And no other industry would even remotely accept such a failure rate. It costs all of us money when we go shopping for food, because the money has to come from somewhere. And when it comes to entrepreneurs, to newly set up companies, the money comes out of the entrepreneur's pocket, or it comes out of investor pockets. And the failure rate being what it is, a lot of the companies that have ideas that we desperately need to change the food system for the better, because the failure rate is so high, these companies are finding it incredibly difficult to secure the investment they need. And we can, with our data-backed solutions, with our AI-backed solutions, we can de-risk, we can give them a chance to succeed in market, and the end result is better food and a better life for all of us.
Okay, so it sounds like you guys are the perfect resource for somebody building a food and beverage company from where I'm sitting. So I'm curious what you hope to achieve, by doing this with your clients. So what is your greatest hope for both Succeeds and your clients? Let's start with you, Kate.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
If you could name maybe two things.
Two things. I think, okay, so from a consumer, so if we start from, you always want to start from who's buying, right? So from a consumer standpoint, I think better choices. And solid choices that are founded on good business, good practice, better ingredients, fairly sourced ingredients. All of the things that we as parents or responsible consumers just would expect, right? As being purchasers. So we would. I think that's one of the pillars, right, of Succeeds, that we want to champion. We want to champion those founders. We want to champion those businesses, and we want to help them forge the way to success to the shelves, right? To the shelves, so we as consumers can make better choices for our health, and for the better economy, right?
So before you go on to the second one, I'm curious, what role does education play in that?
Oh gosh. So education is like enormous, right? So are we talking education from
to the consumer, to the innovator, because it's both, right? Innovators have to be inspired and educated so that they can know to offer this new, better solution. And then consumers need to better understand the information so that they can make the right choice on what they choose off the shelf.
And often, that's such a good point, Justin, because often education comes at a price. And at the moment, we're economically restricted globally, right? We're economically restricted, and often health becomes that's secondary, right? So it's a fact that it's cheaper to feed your kids on McDonald's than it is to cook them at home. That's it.
Right. And that's awful, right? Like, what an awful way to, be. If that's the only way you could feed your family, that would be, that's such,
Yeah.
I mean, we need to come up with better accessible solutions.
Yeah. And how lazy are I'm sorry to say this, but retailers and the large incumbents to allow us to have to make those choices, right? But there are. So education has to come from better accessibility. It has to come from price. So it has to be cheaper to buy from your local store, or even from your farm shop if you have access to that. Knowing that buying the ugly stuff, right, the stuff in the secondhand basket is actually okay, as long as you know how to cook it. So yes, that's an amazing point, Justin. I think education is often it goes hand in hand with accessibility and price. So the two have to go hand in hand, and the whole system. We could go down a rabbit hole here, but the whole system is broken. The system is broken in terms of warehousing, distribution, supply, logistics, accessibility. I mean, yeah, this is why Andreas and I have decided, of all our many decades, right, working in technology, where we handled the same questions, right, when we were discussing how the internet could be freely accessible for the global population, right, back in the 90s. This is how we're approaching F&B now. I feel that this is almost the same. This is almost the same challenge. The Wi-Fi and the internet has now become a utility, but food is not, right? So it should be. So the good food, which is available to our children and to our grandparents and all of us, should be accessible as Wi-Fi. And I think sometimes parents are now having to make those decisions. What's more important, Wi-Fi or food? So yeah, I think, but it's true, right? So I think education is paramount. I think pricing is even more important, because if it's down to eating and Wi-Fi, maybe food becomes secondary, and that has massive impacts on child behavior, on our health as a nation. This is an enormous problem. So going back to your first question, what would we like to do? We would like the heroes to be on the shelves, right? We would love there to be a price correction. We would love for investment businesses to see that food and beverage is and the health of our planet, right, is completely dependent on this subject, and this to be taken very, very seriously. And as Andreas pointed out, the failure rate of those businesses, 80 to 90%, how many of those could have been world changers? How many of those founders and how many of those enterprises could have made a difference? We don't know, because they weren't given the chance to succeed. And what we're doing with Succeeds is backing those businesses with data for the first time, right? Allowing them to prove their worth with real insight that back those businesses on real data, instead of beliefs or passions or I think this tastes good. If we can back those businesses with real true found metrics that allow those businesses to succeed against parameters that we need, right? So price points. Is it sustainably sourced or equally sourced? Can it be distributed and still make margin? Is it healthy? Is this something that has IP? Is it valuable? Bio waste is a huge sector that Andreas and I are looking at. All of these factors, I think, have not been put to the table before we've started to reach a kind of a climax, right? Which is where we are now. So yeah.
And so if we look at that, Andreas, and we understand the data that you guys are providing us Succeeds to empower people to make more informed choices, how do you see that this dictates, to what Kate was saying and the impact of price correction and, being able to make better for you choices? What do you see that enabling your customers, your clients to be able to do, and how?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we're seeing, a lot of customers, a lot of food entrepreneurs, the majority of food entrepreneurs, they spend years to create products nobody wants to buy. And that is just a really unfortunate fact of life when you look at the numbers. What what we can achieve, what we can help to do is we don't want to take away creativity. We don't want to take away personal passion. We don't want to make everything algorithm based or everything data based. What we want to do, we want to empower personal passion. We want to empower creativity. And we want to empower the next generation of food manufacturers in their quest of bringing better food to market. When you're just relying on your hunch, when you're just relying on people around you who have a tendency to tell you what you want to hear, when you're making the mistake of relying on social media data, which is hugely performative, then you end up bringing products to market that will fail in the market. When you're relying on data that comes from observations, what people are really buying, what they're really cooking at home, what they're really ordering at restaurants, all of a sudden you have a really powerful foundation. And from this foundation, you can say, well, this is people's behavior. Changing people's behavior is always really difficult, but nudging people's behavior is a lot more simple, right? So if I'm putting out a product into market that, let's say, has no sugar in it, and let's say the sugar in it, let's say it's fruit-based for argument's sake. If I know that people are buying traditional sweets for the following reasons, they want to make themselves feel better, they want to have a feeling of indulgence, then what I can do, I can take all of these motivations and I can map my product to hit those same decision-making points. And that then allows me to hit the market and meet the market where the market is, rather than coming in and perhaps, I'm not suggesting everybody is like this, but perhaps being preachy, or perhaps being, putting an image out that I'm exclusive, I'm from a small number of people. But it just allows me to take my passion, take my creativity, and then meet the market where the market is, and make sure that my product is relevant for the market, and then affect change from within the market, rather standing outside the market and being disappointed that nobody wants to talk to me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think
Yeah. And Kate, I'm wondering from that, what instances could you share about some of the clients that you've taken on and that have been able to take advantage of the data and recalibrate as a result? Could you share maybe one story about that?
Yeah, I'd love that. Sorry, I got so excited by what Andreas was saying. I wanted to step in because he said like a key word for me, which is relevancy. So, relevancy is something that, when you're a creator, you very rarely think of relevancy. You think of what's passionate, like what counts. And there's nothing worse than being a creator and then having to adapt to your market because you want what it is. But we've had an amazing experience with a beer brand, with an ale brand actually, which is like, again, like how relevant is ale? Like who even thinks about ale? Like ale for me is like mead, right? So like ale, mead, like a big tankard, it just speaks to like big hairy men and pubs, but pale ale is again, it's something that I've Andreas and I have Andreas is a non-drinker, I'm like now a low drinker, but ale is something that we've realized is something that is very sustainably brewed. It can be brewed with botanicals, it can be brewed with low alcohol, very low alcohol, and taste amazing. I'm not a beer drinker, I'm a lady. I'm a lady, but maybe I'm more of like a spitzer. But so what you said, like breaking our perceptions of what could be relevant. like, who could have thought that ale could be relevant? Well, ale could be relevant. We're working with this brand called Dr. Jekyll's. It is so relevant for a number of reasons. It can be brewed at a low alcohol. And low means 1.2, so not no. So no alcohol usually means that you're sacrificing taste, because 0 usually means that it doesn't taste great. But also psychologically, if you're at a party, you're the designated driver, you're at a family do, you're at I don't know, a baby shower, right? So who wants to get drunk at a baby shower? All of those things that potentially people want to have fun, but they don't want to be drunk, right? But at the same time, having that small amount of alcohol, it's a psychological placebo that it can mean so much. It's like having 0 sugar, some sugar, chocolate, no chocolate. Just in your head, just knowing that you have this while someone's having a margarita, and you have a drink in your hand that gives you enough that you feel that you're part of the party, but you're not sacrificing a hangover, you're driving, your cognitive ability, and many other things, right, that could be at play. So with Jekyll's, what we did with them, we worked with them on the data. So we have pale ale as a category. We've got low alcohol or 0 alcohol as a category. And then we have all of the sentiments that are attached to that. And what was so fascinating when we ran this through our platforms and through the billions of data points that we have, what came back is that there is a need across gender. So I thought that this was, being an ale, it would be more male skewed. It's not. It's actually, females and Gen Zs are more curious to, actually, I would I would try this, and it tastes great. It's very citrusy. It's light. It's actually really refreshing. I think ale as an attachment to the brand is like more of a detriment to what it is, right? So we went back to Jekyll's and we were like, actually, you have a broad market that spans across Gen Zs who are curious, who want to, they want to play sports the next day. They don't want to be drunk and embarrassed. They want to drive, they want to drive home on one can. Then you have your women that who could be at the baby shower, who have got small children that need to stay. But there's so many like reasons, right? There's so many solutions that this brand, and there's so many audiences that we thought initially would be pale ale guys, just on the driving designated driver on that slot. But actually, what it opened up was this enormous like opportunity for this brand to explore, which went way beyond pale ale. It now goes beyond actually drinking habits. It goes to like social occasions. It goes to brunches. It goes to breakfast. It goes to wedding parties. It goes to, as I said, like kids' birthday parties. Is actually, we could explore an entire community around the kind of sober curious. That initially this was just a pale ale in a can, that this data has opened up and like factually opened up.
So if we could go back to just what Dr. Jekyll had thought, right? The company. I know and here I'm just curious. So before you came in and before you did this data and you provided this data, what was their vision of their brand?
So it was it was like, literally, this is a pale ale. It's a pale ale. It's low alcohol. It's a guy, a beautiful brand, but it's Dr. Jekyll's on a can, and it's a low alcohol beer. But actually,
and was it mostly? Did they believe it was mostly skewed for men?
Yes, we all did.
Yes, okay, so
we all did.
You all did. No, but I was just curious when they came to you, where their head was at, and then as a result, how it changed because of what you were able to provide.
Exactly. And but that was the amazing aha moment, right? So it wasn't just maybe this could be relevant for women and mothers or teenagers, but now, like, the data actually completely like endorsed that. And now we're in a position where, my gosh, the world is our oyster, because we've seen like the birth of low alcohol wines that don't taste too great, but this looks good. It tastes great. And it, for us, was this incredible, like, a moment of epiphany, where it wasn't just a thought or a hunch, but it was backed up by true data, where we've now expanded their entire reach, and it's now being backed up by sales, right? So taste is the predominant decider, right? So we could say that this is something, and it could be approached by an 18-year-old, but it's only when it's on the shelves or it's in the fridges, and then all of a sudden you have a bunch of like 19-year-olds. Sorry, in Europe you drink 1.2 at 19, but say they're even 21 in North America, and they're saying that this tastes great. I feel like I'm still participating, but I have like the mental responsibility, the cognitive ability to drive home, and it's backed up. So this is so backed up.
Coming down to data is what I'm getting. Data is the support that these brands need to be able to better understand who they are and how to move forward in a smart, more efficient, financially solid way. Is that right? And you guys at Six Seeds provide that insight and that resource.
Yes.
Is that a correct statement? Yes.
It's a correct statement. The data will provide the foundation to the decision making. And as Andreas said earlier, it still requires us, right, as humans, to act on the data, because the data is the navigation point, right? So you are here, this is right, now act on it. We still have to build the brand, we still have to reach the community, we still have to have a great product that still tastes great and looks great and is accessible and still speaks to the community. There is still so much more that we need to put on top, and I think that's our message as Six Seeds.
So with that in mind, right, maybe Andreas, you could just shed some light on the additional support that you provide on top of the on top of the data that help drive your clients in a more informed way.
Yeah, I think it's important.
Maybe top three.
Yeah, I think it's important to know we don't sell data, we sell insight, right? We don't provide raw data to our client. We provide insight to our client. Our clients' market insights, marketing insights, and investment insights. So that's what we provide. The data backs everything up. And if need be, we pull the data out. We certainly pull the data out in investment decks. We share the data when it comes to, for example, presenting to retailers. But what we create is not, here's a data report, good luck with it. What we create for our clients is, here is the way forward that is has a higher chance of success. And here is the data that proves that we didn't just make this up. I teach.
And I think that's super important.
Yeah, I teach at Ivy Business School here in Canada. I teach the MBA program as a visiting lecturer. And I have a big slide of my mom in our learning in the learning materials for the students. And it's a big slide of my mom, and the headline says, "Who not to ask." The majority of food founders, they ask their friends. They ask people who love them, is this a great idea? I could go to my mom with any harebrained idea. I have a crypto blockchain solution that allows the following thing. And my mom would say, "Darling, go right ahead. You make a roaring success out of it." And I think that's true for most situations like this. So what Kate and I do, Kate is the queen of asking difficult but necessary questions to people. The kind of questions that I think a lot of people know need to be asked, but have not dared to ask themselves, or they've ignored them because they are so difficult. And so what we come is, I say, we don't come with a big data report that nobody ever does anything. We come with very slim documents that says, here's your sweet spot, there's your sweet spot, that's where you need to go. And frequently what we do, what our job is we focus people on a core opportunity and then say, here's your core opportunity, ignore everything else, ignore all the all the shiny distractions that are in the world, and go and focus there.
Wow. So I'm curious now that you've laid it out there, Andreas. Kate, what are some of the key questions that these founders can ask themselves to start this process so that they can make better choices and share some insights?
Wow. I mean, coming back to Andreas and our roots, right, in technology, there has to be a lesson learned. Like, what problem am I trying to solve? And who is this for? So, who is this for, and what problem, right, am I trying to solve? And there is like such a plethora of great products that are in the investment bin, right? So think of all like the hot spices or like the sauces, or even the baby food that we could have fed our kids, all of that stuff that has fallen by the wayside, and the millions of dollars, pounds, yen that have been spent and misspent on investments that have failed. So I think it comes back to as a founder within this sector, what problem am I trying to solve? How can I make the world a better place, right? How can I feed, right? This is what am I trying to do? So that would be the first. And then the second would be, how can I make this investable? Because it's almost impossible to build anything now without having backing. And the incumbents and us as consumers, I mean, our choices probably now are more slim than they ever have been, I think. With it in physical retail. I live in Europe. I don't have Deliveroo. I can't just like scroll on an app. So I need to go to physical stores, and it's still the same incumbents will still supply the same old stuff, so that our choices are quite limited. So within the kind of artisan sector, again, I would say, like, how is this going to be a viable business? Just because it tastes great and you've got ingredients, and even if you could supply it locally, how is this going to, unfortunately, make money, right? Every business has to.
So we look at those three things you said. It's the impact we're making on the world.
Yes.
Who are we serving? Like,
Yeah.
who are we serving, and how are we going to build a viable business?
Exactly.
Can I add something to this thing quickly?
Yeah, sure.
So I was working with a group of entrepreneurs. Actually, it was last week, and I had a young firm come to me, and they say, we'd like to present our idea. Where we'd like to have your feedback on this, and can we have half an hour to talk about our business? And I say, absolutely. And they were in the business of removing ugly vegetables, ugly food from the supply chain, and rather than sending it to landfill where it rots and creates emissions, do something with it, which is a business model that we see an awful lot of right now. And it's a great
upcycling. That's what they're calling that.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Upcycling.
So we looked at the business model, and then when it came to their product, they were saying all the right things, they were mentioning all the right numbers, and then their products was a hot sauce and a hot honey. And I said to them, tell me how this is going to make money. To Kate's point, right? Tell me why this? And they didn't really have an answer to that. And I said, all right, so let's disassemble this business. And if you are in the upcycling business, one of your major opportunities to make money and to fit into the broader economy is not to sell an apple sauce made from ugly apples. Far from it. It is talking to the company where you're buying ugly apples from and saying, we've just removed X tons of emissions from the atmosphere. You will be charged for these emissions going forward. And it doesn't matter who's going to sit in the White House, because the economy is demanding this, the banks are demanding this, the European market is demanding this, and if the EU demands things, it has worldwide ripples, right? So if you'd like to sell in Europe as a North American apple farmer, you have to, hit their guidelines. Doesn't matter who's in the White House. It doesn't matter who's in China. Makes no difference. You have to play by those rules. And so, I said to them, it's like, you have to understand that what you're doing here is wonderful. Hot sauce. We don't need another hot sauce. We don't need another spiced honey. So great idea with the upcycling. Let's take a look what other things we can do with this. But understand your real business model. Your real business model is emission reduction. And how can you sell to your suppliers this emission reduction? You are taken away. They have to pay typically for they have to pay dumping fees for those produce that they can't sell. Going forward, very soon, they have to pay for the emissions they're putting into the atmosphere. The banks, when they try to raise money next time, the banks now have to report on emissions created with the loans they're putting into the universe. And if you're publicly traded, it gets even worse or better, from whichever side you're looking at this thing. And they hadn't even thought about the wider implications of what you were doing. And it just opened up an entirely new conversation, put the data behind it. We pulled all these conversations out there. And they just went away. And, I know they're going to build a much stronger business as a result of that conversation alone.
I would imagine. I mean, that was what a way to harness the impact of what they're doing and really focus it on what's really important. Because what they were doing was important, but it was getting lost because what they were creating wasn't really delivering what people need or want necessarily. So with that in mind, I'm curious, what's the one thing as we wrap this up that you feel you want to make sure that these founders really take away from what you're offering and how you can support them, or for them to build a better for you business through insights?
So I think very quickly from my standpoint, I think for me I have a very linear structure, right, to building a business, and it's tried and tested. So product first, build the product. Product first. Understand the product, not consumer. Product first. So product first. Understand the product. What problem am I solving? What price point is it going in? Where is it going to be distributed? Product.
Okay, Andreas, what would you say?
No, 100% agree with what Kate just said. And then the other thing is emotion second.
Yeah.
Right? Knowledge first, emotion second. What we see.
Emotion can get us caught up in trouble.
Emotions
we get
really
too emotional.
Important. Yeah, no, emotions are really important, right? Emotions are really important in food. And I am not going to sit here and pretend to be a robot and saying they're not. Like, I'm a cook. I cook for people I love, hopefully with love. But when you're running a business, give yourself the biggest unfair advantage you can possibly give yourself. And that unfair advantage is data. Understand what really makes people tick. Use that foundation to superpower your emotions, and then hit the market. And I said this earlier on, hit the market where the market is, not where you wish it would be.
Yeah.
That's really important.
Guys, thank you so much for all your insight and your resource. I think it's been a great chat and a great conversation for those founders building better for you food businesses. And for those folks that would want to get in touch to maybe either talk to you further about their businesses or how to make better choices, what's the best way to connect?
Okay.
Go to our website. So www.6, so number 6 and then seeds.co.co.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Or you can hit us up.
Thank you guys
hit us
so
up on
much for
LinkedIn.
joining me.
You're very welcome.
LinkedIn?
LinkedIn.
Yeah,
Always a
no,
good
LinkedIn. I didn't. LinkedIn's a good place. Andreas, we will add your LinkedIn's for both of you in the show notes, as well as your website, to make sure that anyone listening or viewing can connect easily.
Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jacine.
Pleasure.